Hello, everybody, and welcome back to FAST-ATHON 2025. I'm your new host, Howling Mad Mike, and just before we start, I've been told repeatedly I have to do this. There has been a $10 donation from Howling Mad Mike. He's a very good-looking, slightly balding chap who says, punishment to myself for decapitating the prince for a significant part of the run due to my completely incompetent cropping. Yes, that's a reference to my earlier Prince of Persia run. I accidentally cropped the top of the screen too low. So, yes, apologies for that. But anyway, we are raising money for able gamers. If you can donate, please do. Exclamation donated chat gives you all the information you need. And we've raised $160 so far. So that's absolutely awesome. Thank you to everyone who has donated, but please do keep them coming in. We've still got 2 more runs to go, and coming up next we have Super Mario Brothers. Well, the screen says Super Mario Brothers 2, but for us in the West, this is Super Mario Brothers The Lost Levels, ran by Web 2000. So take it away. Is it Web 2000?
Yes, it's Web 2000. Thank you. Hi everyone.
Yeah, it's the underscore. Sorry, I meant to say it's the underscore. Is the underscore obligatory or no?
No, it's not mandatory. Don't worry about it.
Take it away.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Web 2000, speedrunner of Super Mario Brothers 2, also known as The Lost Levels in the West. This was released in 1986 by Nintendo. Not released outside of Japan until 1993 in the Super Mario All-Stars release. I am with Simplistic 6502, who is a expert on both the original Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario Brothers: The Lost Levels. So,
hey all, I'm Simplistic 6502, or Simplistic for short. As Lane said, I have quite a bit of background knowledge in this game, but when it comes to Super Mario Brothers: The Lost Levels specifically, I'm not quite the excellent speedrunner in the same way that she is, and all things considered, I think she's really going to put on a great show here. This game is not talked about all that much in terms of speedrunning, but it's really quite the spectacle to observe, especially because the levels here are a lot more complex than the original Super Mario Brothers. If you're familiar with the SMP1 speedrun, then you'll have a great time watching this. It's really interesting all around.
yep. It is very interesting, especially because this game is very much movement based compared to the linear move right of Super Mario Brothers 1. Well, I think we have delayed long enough. Let's get right into it. Timing starts as soon as the in-game timer shows up on the screen. So as soon as it says 400, that's when timing starts. I will count us down. 3, 2, 1. Right. And begin. So for the first level, there's not really much to talk about. I'm going to be playing this one very safe by waiting here for this Koopa, running under, bopping this guy in order to manipulate some objects, because otherwise there'll be 2 plants there at spawn, and we don't want 2 plants there because of a fun little thing called a jump. And while this loses a couple frame rules, in an event like this, you'd rather be safe than sorry. And to talk more about frame rules, I'll give it to Simplistic right now.
Alright, so as famous speedrunner Darby once said, imagine a bus.
Oh, no.
If you're into the speedrunning scene at all, you've probably heard that analogy at least once. That's to say, with frame rules in this game, essentially there's a 21 frame cycle that starts from power on, and this cycle dictates when you can complete levels and go to the next stage. So you can have situations where you catch the bus frame perfectly, you have 0 frames to spare between finishing the level and proceeding to the next. Sometimes you can have a 20 frame wait if you finish that section just 20 frames faster. So all in all, it creates a unique scenario where you don't need to play perfectly to save the optimal amount of time, you just need to play fast enough. As you see here, Lane is opting to collect power-ups in this run, which is something that you do not see very often in, say, the first game, and even top-level runs of this game, but as we'll explain later, power-ups come in handy, certainly later in the run, especially.
Absolutely. It's also worth noting that while it is not commonly used, it is actually the absolute fastest means of beating the game. If you look at the tool assisted speedrun currently published on Taz Videos by Happily, it uses the Fire Flower, and it comes in handy in a lot of areas to save time. It is, in total, about 1 second faster in terms of for real-time runs. Now, World 4 is kind of the more boring part of the game, because this is the most linear part, up until 4-4, which is a little bit annoying, and we'll get into why very shortly. But for now, enjoy the nice, relaxing scenery for pretty much the only time you can. Oh, I tried. There's a 2-frame window there, depending on how you have your fireball set up, to corner clip the fireball into the lower part. This was demonstrated in several runs by great runners such as Scalpel and Cosmic, for instance. Now, for 4-3, this is the first time we'll see Frenzy bullet bills, which are essentially bullet bills that are shooting randomly. For this, we're going to play it safe, because we don't know what patterns we're going to get. We got lucky there. You may have noticed I slowed down a bit at the end to get 345, and that's important. The way this game works is that if the last digit of your coin count matches the last digit of the in-game timer, you will get fireworks, which will cost you some time. Now, you can either get 3 or 6 fireworks, depending on if the number is odd or even. You do not want it to be either, to be honest. But another tidbit, if your coin count is a multiple of 11, and the last digit of the IGT matches both digits, then you will get a 1-up. Now, we will experience a little bit of load times in this because this is a Famicom Disk System release. It's only about 1 second on the Mister, which is a hardware emulator that replicates the hardware on a very accurate level, even more accurate than some revisions of the original Nintendo. Now, as you can see, as soon as I was done talking there, we were in 5-1. Now, this features something called the Super Jump, which I will let Simplistic explain. Oh, whoops. We might not see it.
Alright, so the way the Super Jump works, it abuses how stomping on Paracoopas works in this game. Whenever you stomp an enemy, it sets your Y speed, which very interestingly works out so that if you stomp enemies like Paracoopas while moving upwards, it gives you ridiculous amounts of air. And in this case, doing the Super Jump allows you to clear the big wall at the end of 5-1 without having to reveal the coin blocks that you would normally have to hit to proceed to the end of the stage. Saves quite a bit of time because you just don't have to do that very slow climb.
Now for 5-2, we're going to be doing a wrong warp. Unlike Super Mario Bros. 1, where you have to do a few bumps in order to trick the scroll stop, what we have to do is scroll enough to get to the scroll stop, and then mash our way into this pipe. And because of the way the pipe works, we can actually go inside an upside down pipe and go down. This is called the Devil's Spell, or the Devil's Skill, depending on who you ask. I personally prefer Spell, but some people prefer Skill. You know, tomato, tomato, really. Now, 8-1 is a very tricky level, especially if done in Small Mario. But with Fire, it's a little bit more of a walk in the park. You gotta watch out for that Hammer Brother, because depending on what frame you enter the level, he can move downward. And it can be quite annoying to get through. It's a 5-frame window, so it's very generous in the grand scheme of things in this game, because it could have been a 1-frame window. But you have to be careful. This game punishes those who don't react. Now for 8-2, I'll let Simplistic explain why this level is a very interesting case compared to all the others.
Okay, so this is one of the few levels in the game where it's not a straight shot to the exit. You have to find a hidden passage of sorts to reach the end of the level. In this case, this is hitting a vine block by stomping on a Koopa Troopa and then climbing up that vine. Now, if executed well, you can stomp the Koopa twice, such that you hit the block and then immediately land on the brick block to the right, but that is rather tricky to do. So...
And the optimal way to do it with Fire Mario is by doing a 1-frame flick at a very specific frame. There is some leniency to it, but it is still quite tricky, especially when you're under nerves in a late-game run. For, like, a category such as Warpless, for instance. A3 is also quite interesting because you do need to slow down. We're going to go up on these blocks here. And then, there we go. You have to slow down a bit to make the seesaw platforms go up in a way where you won't instantly fall down. Fun fact, as Luigi, you can clear it, but it's still slower than Mario. This is the last level of the game. We're going to slow down here to avoid the Podoboo. Now, generally you can clear it, but you need to know what part of the frame will you enter. And this is what we call the G room, because that part looks like a G. Fourth room, I'll let Simplistic explain why this part is the most annoying part of 2J.
So after an exceedingly long hallway, which I'm not quite sure why they made it that long, you have a couple Koopa paratroopers guarding the end pipe, and this section is really tricky to get through, especially as small. As fire, it's a little bit easier, but you still have to be quite careful.
Bruce wasn't a pal there. This is the last two Bowsers. The one there, we call Bruce, and he can go in one of many different directions. This is Bowser. We got hit there. Time. Sorry about that. A lot of quick information being fired at you. But hey, we made it through at least. That's the end of Super Mario Bros. 2. So Bowser can move in 3 different trajectories. Forwards, turn, or backwards. Technically, they're all turns. It just depends on when he decides to turn. There's also technically another variant of backwards where he doesn't turn until very later. That's not really relevant in this case because of when you have to jump. And depending on how the hammers throw, you can either get through incredibly easily or just run under in the event of a forward, or it will be flat out impossible and you'll have to take damage and die. As Small Mario, it's a nightmare, it's fire. As you saw, I was able to just clip through some invisible blocks and just not worry about Bruce, but I still got hit by Bowser. Now, I could have probably went through if I jumped later, but need to play safe. Yeah, that's a lot of quickfire information, mainly because it's a short run. But hey, let's get some shoutouts out the way, especially towards Super Mario Bros. 2. I want to give a huge shoutouts to everyone who has contributed to this game and got us to where we are today with all the knowledge and all of the skill sets and everything where we are now. Scalpel, Cosmic, Nifsky, GTAs, Simplistic, every single and many others who I can't name off the top of my head, and I'm very sorry for that. But thank you everyone in terms of getting these things in a better spot than when we were years ago, and I hope that we continue to see this happen, especially with new people joining the community. I also want to give a shout out to my friends, Arl. I want to give a shout out to Brandon Lepetri42. I want to give a shout out to Ema. I want to give a shout out again to Scalpel, again to Simplistic, and a whole bunch of other friends who I absolutely love with my heart. You're all amazing, and hope the best for everything. Last thing, because I'm really running out of breath because of how quickly I'm talking. You may have noticed on the title screen there, we have a star. If you beat the game 8 times, either with or without warps, it doesn't really matter, and you have 8 stars on the title screen. If you hold A and start, you will unlock 4 extra worlds, known as worlds A through D. And I will let Simplistic explain a little bit more about A through D before we wrap up.
Alright, so in lieu of the second quest from the original game, the developers decided to throw in 4 bonus worlds for the most diehard of players. If you beat the game 8 times, you hold A and press start on the title screen to gain access to worlds A through D. And there's a separate speedrun category for them, as well as a speedrun category for playing every single stage in the game, including A through D, and both of those can be quite challenging as A through D has some of the toughest levels in the game, especially near the later worlds. But all in all, this game is very interesting in that it has even more stages than the original Super Mario Bros. 52 to be exact. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was fantastic. I will give it back now to the host, Mike.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have to say, I did mention it in the chat earlier. I just love that the attract screen in this game just has Mario dying within 10 seconds. It's just so funny.
The poison mushroom.
But thank you very much for that run, Web 2000. We are going to take a brief intermission, but do not go too far. We are coming up on our final run of the day, or the morning in this instance, or the afternoon if you're in America, which is Accio with Sonic Generation. So do not go too far. We'll be back very, very shortly.